Now, this, I'm calling this the consumerism fractal, and this is in effect the linchpin to what we're going to see coming forward. And it's a fractal because it's a pattern that's repeating itself on different scales. So we saw that pattern here, we see it here, we see it here, and there's a journey that needs to be completed in order for this fractal to become more sustainable or progressive. And that journey is represented by the movement from the physical to the vital to the mental, as was apparent when we looked at this journey from the seed to the flower. Point being, if we are stuck at the vital level, so there's this variable or varied kind of consumption that's short-sighted and narrow in its repercussions or in its understanding, then it's going to have impact in the way that the global business fractal operates. It's going to have a repercussion in the way that the global economy fractal operates, and it's going to have a repercussion in the way that the global society fractal operates. And let's look at this in a little more detail. So if we consider that each of these journeys can be represented by the three stages, physical, vital, mental, and we look at, okay, so where really is the global business fractal? So it's possible for it to be at any of these levels, but the fact of the matter is that because a business may require a business case to really justify humane working conditions or even human life to some extent, means that it is very short-sighted and narrow in its considerations, and we have to conclude that in general, not in all cases, but in general, it tends to be at the vital level. So there's kind of a stagnation over here. It's not surprising given that the consumer himself or herself is stuck at the vital level. So the business has to be, the global business fractal also has to be at this level. If we think about the global economy fractal, then again, from the range of possibilities, physical, vital, mental, we see a stagnation here. And why do we conclude that? Because the very fact that you have to wage wars to get, say, diamonds or oil and send continents into disarray, or that there's exploitation of resources of all kinds, means that there is a stagnation in this narrow self-seeking mode of being. And similarly, when we think about the global society fractal, from all the possibilities or its journey, we also see a stagnation here, because the fact is that life has become synonymous with business, with this short-sighted view of a small fulfillment rather than a holistic, harmonious fulfillment at a larger level. And we see that many institutions that should be existing for their own purpose, knowledge seeking or seeking of art and beauty, exist to make money, and it's clearly they've become subservient to this overall business protocol that exists. So point being is that there's also stagnation at this vital level, and as a result of this, what we see is that the global system fractal, the system in which we exist, that comprises all these various things, is also, from its range of possibilities, is also stagnated here. Now, what we're really seeing is that there's, due to some root behavior or root orientation, there's a ripple effect, and as a result of the entire system, our entire foundation now existing at this level, and the fact that we exist in this system that is sensible, that seems to have a direction, there has to be a wake-up call. And this wake-up call has taken the nature of climate change. And it's a wake-up call. If we look at climate change in a little more detail, then business action has created an increase of greenhouse gases and carbon dioxide in the atmosphere that raises the temperature of the atmosphere and the environment. The rise in temperature creates weather systems of all kinds. Storms are created that may devastate coastal villages and cities. But beyond that, there's also the melting of the polar ice caps. As a result, the water levels go up, the water levels of seas and oceans, and we have a more systemic devastation of coastal areas, of wetlands, of marshes, and that begins to create a progressive destruction of many land-based ecosystems that are necessary for us. But even further, what we begin to see is that because of the increase in temperature, there's a change in some very necessary currents that run through the ocean, and as a result of that, the entire weather systems and much larger land masses are being affected. And again, there's shift in temperatures that result in ecosystem destruction, and the acidity that's created due to increased carbon dioxide that gets absorbed by the oceans really destroys marine life at its base. So planktons, which is perhaps at the beginning of the marine food chain, it gets destroyed, and as a result we see even the systems within the ocean being severely compromised. And as we know that these ecosystems provide us with some very fundamental services, whether they're air filtration and purification, water purification, creation of food, creation of medicinal compounds, all kinds of balancing effects like carbon sequestration and flood control, and so on and so forth. But the point being is that our very basis of on which we depend, on which all business depends, on which all resources, or from where all resources are being extracted, that very basis is being globally compromised, and that is a result of this global system fractal that in itself is stagnated at the vital level, and that emanates from this stagnation of the global business fractal, global economy fractal, and global society fractal, that in itself emanates from this stagnation of the consumerism fractal, which itself is a result of the consciousness of an individual stagnating around the vital level. And the point being that if we really do want to address climate change successfully, then it can't be addressed at this level over here, but it has to be addressed at its roots, so going back over here and realizing that true sustainability, or the release of problems at this level, is going to happen by emulating this pattern of sustainable progress that drives to the mental level. So there's a flower that needs to be seen, and this needs to happen progressively at each subsequent layer or level of this global fractal that in effect is compromised now, and that sign of the compromising is the global dysfunction that we see in phenomena such as climate change.